All right, now, shall we firstly remind you that you should definitely be checking out Luca's Chronicles series? It seems very, very impressive. I'm definitely going to be watching it. It's getting released, I believe, today. So have a look and do let us know what you think and what topics you want him to cover. But let me now for a moment talk about the absolute murderous state of the British Parliament. So today, Parliament is supposed to be debating legalizing abortion up until birth. At 20 weeks, a baby can be viable. And a baby can feel pain and can feel suffering. And so when you try to abort after the 12th week, that usually involves ripping that baby limb from limb and then crushing its skull in order to kill it. So it's a very extreme procedure. And now Parliament is debating making it legal up until birth. We had somebody say that, yes, if it was at 38 weeks, 37 weeks, which is a perfectly normal premature birth, then abortion should still be legal. Regardless of how you feel in particular about abortion, and just for the sort of fedora types out there, fetus means baby. Regardless of how you feel about that, this is a very extreme position. And it's a very violent thing to do to an innocent child that's capable of feeling pain. But this isn't enough for the Parliament. They also want to make killing the vulnerable, the elderly, etc. much, much easier. And the reasoning for that is absolutely fascinating. Here's the reasoning from Keir Starmer's mouth.
I made a promise to Esther Rantzen before the election that we would provide time for a debate and a vote on assisted dying, that it would be a free vote, and obviously that opportunity has now arisen, and I'm very pleased that I'm able, as it were, to make good on the promise I made to Esther Rantzen.
So the way that this works is that this is a private member's bill by Kim Ledbetter, Joe Cox's sister, and there's normally a lottery at the start of Parliament to decide which MPs get to propose their bills. Magically, she won the first place. And what she wants to do is permit laws that would allow the NHS to pretty much kill anybody with a diagnosis of a terminal illness. Now, before we go into the details of it, let's just talk a little bit about nice Ms. Esther Rantzen. She's been complaining that she has cancer and that she needs to go to she might have to go to Dignitas to die. She's 85. I hope her cancer, heals, and I don't wish her ill. But this is who she is.
There were rumors in television. There were rumors in...
So the rumors she's talking about is of Jimmy Savile being a nasty pedophile and rapist.
In the music industry, where he was a DJ, there were rumors in Fleet Street. I'm told there were even rumors in the NHS. But the trouble with a rumor is that it's not something you know. In order to know something as a fact, it must either have happened to you or you must have seen it happen. Nothing else stands up in court, and nothing else would permit a newspaper to publish or a programme to broadcast. I was working in a very different part of the BBC. The person who told me the rumour was a junior researcher who had heard it in Fleet Street, and really there was no substance to it at all. No allegation about a specific child, no disclosure from a child that I know of in all the 26 years of Childline.
I'm sorry, I want to continue this for a moment, because she said that she knew about this from a junior researcher, and she was extremely senior at the time, and she's saying that the rumors were pretty much everywhere and everybody knew about it. But there's something else there.
But now, adults are ringing Childline and saying, well, we were abused, who see things going on and dare not go to their bosses, can at least report it another way. And that way bad things maybe won't happen.
So here she's talking about protecting whistleblowers, but somebody literally came to her and blew the whistle, and she did absolutely nothing. So this is the moral character of the person to whom Keir Starmer made this commitment.
She should have at least started an investigation. Because on the one hand, yes, okay, rumors are rumors.
Yes.
But when you hear lots of people saying the same thing, you need to guard yourself.
Exactly. So the bill as it currently stands requires somebody to have a diagnosis of they're going to be dying in 6 months.
Yeah.
And this story here about this gentleman, Stephanus Breitenbach, who's Australian, he was diagnosed with 3 months to live, and now he's on 3 years, and he's extremely happy. And the way that he does it is that he aims for a couple of days of more life at a time. And at the time this was written in June this year, he's aiming to make it until September to celebrate his son's birthday. So think about how many birthdays he would have missed if he had sort of followed that advice and then decided to sort of kill himself. But there are enormous problems in the way that this bill was being debated even, not just in the way that it was presented, which is magically Kim Ledbetter winning the right to sort of go first. She engineered it so that the witnesses that were allowed to speak were pretty much 80% either neutral or supportive of assisted suicide, with only a tiny minority allowed to speak who are opposed to it. And you see that here in this list that's provided by Dan Hitchens. Dan has been covering this extremely well. Him and someone else I'll mention, Nikki DeCosta, they've been doing an incredible job covering all of the holes in this bill. And instead of sort of debating the issue honestly, what Ms. Ledbetter has been doing is claiming that everybody is being misinformed. And so he asks her here, okay, who are the people who are misinformed? And then he goes through a list of the people who oppose making the NHS into a murder machine, which is what this bill does. Well, for one, the Royal College of Psychiatrists. That seems quite important. If you are extremely unwell and you're at the risk of dying or killing yourself, it's typical to have a psychiatric intervention that helps you cope with your suffering better, that helps you manage your life a little bit better. These are the people responsible for it, and they're saying, absolutely not, this is a horrible bill. The Association for Palliative Medicine. If your case is terminal, there's still a way for you to die a natural death in dignity through pain management, through the provision of comfort, through the provision of care. Basically, life can be made valuable and have moments of joy, even in the midst of great suffering. And God help us who isn't suffering. Everybody is. So these are the people who manage your life at the end of it, and they're saying this is a terrible idea. Why are they objecting? For a whole range of reasons, including the fact that this bill threatens to cut off funding from any facility that provides palliative care and refuses to offer assisted dying. Now think about it this way. You've decided you're going to die a natural death, and you go to this clinic that can give you a bit of pain management medication, that can help you stay comfortable, that can help you handle yourself in your final days, and now they're obligated to suggest whether or not you want to die.
Yes.
What does that do to you psychologically?
I mean, we've seen Canada go down this route. I mean, it starts off as it's an option that people in severe pain can take, and a lot of people will hear that and think, okay, that sounds reasonable. But then it becomes, you go to your GP and I'm feeling a little bit depressed this week, or have you considered killing yourself? And I know what the NHS is like. So there was a case a few years back of a young boy, maybe 9 or 10 years old, and he was kind of suffering under the NHS, and the parents wanted to take him to, I think, Poland or something, who had a therapy who could deal with it. And the NHS did everything in their power to stop. They wanted him to stay and die.
Right.
And the parents managed to get him for this treatment, and he recovered. He had full recovery.
And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
There's among medical professionals who are honest, and which is becoming unfortunately increasingly rare, they know that you can't actually tell if someone is going to die in 6 months.
So it's a suggestion. It's not that they're telling you consider killing
But
yourself.
how would you feel if your cancer treatment guy is telling you, well, chemo's expensive and this is going to be a bit painful for you. You could also kill yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
And this bill, every single safeguard that's been proposed for this bill has been rejected. So here, the geriatric society, the professionals who care for the elderly medicine, geriatric medicine, they're saying absolutely not. This is terrible. And they were initially refused the right to give oral evidence. And you can tell how thoroughly MPs do their research and do their readings by the sheer quality of them speaking in public. They clearly haven't done the work. So they're refusing to listen to the right people. Coalition of Frontline Care, they're against it. The Royal College of Physicians, these guys are saying we're neutral on whether or not to allow this. But they are saying that this bill in particular is absolutely horrific because of the 1,000,001 safeguards failings that it has. Everybody in disability rights, they're against it. The civil liberties organizations, they're against it. Experts in anorexia, so they tried to create an exclusion for anorexia, which is a very treatable condition at the end of the day. It's a sad condition, it's a tragic condition, but it's a treatable one. No, this bill allows those who are suffering from anorexia to get killed. And importantly, you mentioned somebody's family stepping in. In this bill, they tried to insert an amendment that says, well, you must at least notify the family. And Ms. Ledbetter refused.
Right, so this bill as it stands, you could have an 18-year-old suffering from anorexia.
It could be. They refused to ban it for under 18s. Okay. So it's still permissible. You could be 17.
Okay, so you could have a 17-year-old suffering from anorexia, and without even telling the family, they go straight to euthanasia.
Think about it this way: if you were a very nasty person running a care home of some sort, and we are seeing some of that, what you now have a wonderful opportunity to do is to convince the people under your care that they're too much of a burden.
This will be pushed.
This will be pushed, and that they should write you into their will because your family needs the money, and that you should go off and kill yourself. And the approval process is the bar for it is extremely low. They just have to think that there's a 49% chance that you're being coerced, but a 51% chance that you're not, or that you're being manipulated. And there is nothing in the legislation that says that doctors will be trained to spot this. And indeed, spotting and identifying psychological manipulation is extremely hard. And so you could run a scam where you're in the care sector and you have a cousin who is a doctor and you just bounce people to each other in order to get them killed and change their wills before they get killed. And because there is no requirement for investigation, this is permissible. And the coroner wouldn't examine you afterwards.
Yes.
So there wouldn't be somebody examining you after your assisted suicide to say, well, this guy's covered in bruises. Should we have allowed this to happen?
So maybe 20 odd years ago, there was the Harold Shipman scandal.
Yes.
A doctor who sort of set out to kill as many people as possible.
Yep.
The new Harold Shipman would be able to do this and make YouTube videos about it. And openly do it. He would just be able to go around with the full benefit of the law behind him, persuading people to let him kill them.
This should not be called the assisted dying bill. This should be called the Harold Shipman bill. That's what it is. Because that's exactly what it's enabling.
It will go after everyone who's vulnerable.
Yes.
Even temporarily.
Yes.
And it won't be offered, it will be pushed.
Yes. Yes.
Do you think that's a political decision?
Yes, I think it's been debated. So people like Danny Kruger, who are on the committee, who has been standing up against this bill quite forcefully. Diane Abbott stood up against this bill quite forcefully and quite impressively. They've all said there are these problems here with this legislation, and this legislation is disastrous. and medical professionals who are saying, look, we're neutral on the idea, but this bill is terrible. These guys are being ignored completely. So this is a political choice. And this is essentially the state deciding to manage pensions in the worst imaginable way. And this is happening at the same time that they're making it easier to kill babies. So you're murdering the past and you're murdering the future.
And also your votes, if you're doing it for political purposes.
Exactly. Well, if you're the Labour Party, you think that the retirees tend to vote right. So you're fine with it. In Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf kills their grandmother and kills the child. And that's one of the many reasons why he's evil. He leads to temptation, he does all kinds of things. But one of the reasons that he's evil is that he destroys the past and he destroys the future. That's what this murderous parliament is doing. That's exactly what this parliament is doing. This is evil.
So when you said it was ruled out for, I started talking about an 18-year-old and you said, no, it's not ruled out for under 18s.
Yes.
Is there any age limit on it?
I don't know. So
it could go down to,
Who knows?
Whatever the first age is when you can get a GP's appointment by yourself. 14 or something? 13 maybe?
Yeah, perhaps. And it's
they would be
in the Netherlands.
Fair game as well.
In the Netherlands, it has happened.
Okay, right.
Where they've killed underage kids, including, I think, in one case because of depression. I believe that there was one case that involved depression being the primary cause.
Well, because it's easier to kill them than it is to help them.
It's not that hard to help them.
No, but it's still easier to kill them.
Yeah. Well, if that's your objective, fair enough. This gentleman, let me just check his name again, Sir David Haslam, who is a former head of the British Medical Association, so he knows what he's talking about. And he makes the case that, look, when it comes to my own relatives, I definitely want to be able to spend as much money as I can to save them. And I understand that there are choices to be made and considerations. However, the same applies to assisted dying. From individual perspective, assisted dying might appear a logical development. But from the perspective of society, it is likely to have a profoundly different impact with a legion of unintended consequences. Because this bill, as it currently stands, pretty much allows anybody to get killed. They promised initially that it was going to go to a judge and it was going to go to the High Court for each case. Then they sort of decided, no, we don't need to do that. And they lowered it to a panel. And this panel doesn't need to interview anybody and doesn't have any judicial authority. And you don't have to appear in front of the panel. So if the panel thinks, well, there's a 40% chance that Stelios is coercing Dan into killing himself, we can't make Stelios appear before that committee and testify. Nobody can do it.
But also Dan could do it to me.
Yes. I'm sort of,
Yes.
Of course. And there are some questions here which Nikki Da Costa, she's also done an incredible job covering this topic. Please follow her. Please support her work. Any doctor can initiate the discussion. So your GP, if he gets sort of annoyed with you because, I don't know, you've tried antidepressants and they didn't work, or he was having a bad day, or she was having a bad day, they can initiate that conversation. They can do it with someone under the age of 18. It can be done because somebody is depressed or feels like a burden.
And if they can do it, they will do it.
And if, not just that, if they start here, they will expand it over time. The trajectory for countries like Belgium and the Netherlands and Canada has been that the slippery slope is not a logical fallacy, it's an iron rule.
Yep.
Once you concede the principle, that's it. And the principle of the holiness of life and the sanctity of life and respect for life, because it is given by God, that principle should never be violated. You can only kill people in a just war or for the service of justice as part of the criminal justice system, but you just can't do it willy-nilly because somebody feels like a burden. Here's the worst part. Here's the worst part. This can be made profitable. So the NHS can outsource the provision of death services to private companies who can make as much money as they want over it. So imagine the advertising here, because you know you're going to start seeing advertisements for it. Feeling like too much of a burden? Feeling tired all of the time? Your cancer isn't really that... your chemo isn't being nice to you?
One upside. At least it will bring some jobs back for white actors in commercials.
Well, you can
Suddenly
bet, you can bet on that. You can bet on that. A minister can lift the advertising ban. It can become advertised. And it's just down to a single minister. And you know that minister is going to get paid.
I'm just thinking about the economic arguments of this. You've got to bear in mind that the way the NHS works is each person coming through the door is not a customer. And a person coming through the door is not a good thing for the NHS.
Yes.
It is all costs. And what do you try and do to costs? You try and minimise costs.
Yep.
So the economic incentive for the NHS would be
That's what they're trying to do.
Maximise this as far as possible.
That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. There doesn't need to be an assessment as to whether or not you have the mental capacity to agree to this. There doesn't need to be an assessment as to whether or not you're being coerced. Everything about this sort of, fundamentally changes what the NHS is all about, from a national health service to a national death service. And they could force care homes and hospices to provide that service, as the law is written.
And they will.
And you can see that, speaking as a Catholic care homes are not going to agree to offer assisted death.
And so they'll be closed down.
So they'll either be defunded or closed down. Which is, incidentally, you remember with the contraception debate in the United States, Obama tried to force the Little Sisters of the Poor to provide contraception. And it became an incredible court case, and they almost succeeded. And so they're trying the same thing again and again. There's no duty of care to ensure that the drugs work properly. So there's no safeguard against a drug that's supposed to give you a quick and painless death actually causing a horrendous death. There's no safeguard in this bill. And there's no subsequent investigation. So it's a making money scheme. They don't even want... They know this bill is bad. How do you know this bill is bad? They don't want the data to be collected on various failures and on various problems that emerge from it. They don't even want to mandate data collection so that we could say, okay, we're going to try it your way for 5 years and then we're going to reassess in the next parliament. This is how you know that it's malice. This is how you know that it's malice.
I mean, this bill does sound like it's been written by Malloch.
Yes. Yes, pretty much. And healthcare professionals are up in arms. They're writing about it. They're saying, no, don't you dare do it. But they're completely being ignored. And so they've made a choice. They could fund adult social care, or they could just kill the elderly. At heart, this is a spiritual crisis. At heart, this goes back to the issue that because Britain has lost its spirituality, family is breaking down, and therefore there are not enough children, and there are not enough young people caring for their elderly parents, which was always the historic norm. I mean, no matter how individualistic a society is, when your father or mother are ill, there is somebody in that society who's going to take care of them, even if they don't live with them, whatever the other points. But at heart, this is a spiritual question. And you can tell that this is a spiritual malady that's afflicting this parliament by the fact that in the same week they're debating killing the youngest and the eldest and most vulnerable at the same time. If it was intended as a service to Moloch, this is exactly what you would expect. Yeah. So this is what Parliament is trying to debate.
And it will be the same old bait and switch. The forward-facing angle of this will be, look, here's this person who's got advanced cancer and they're in great pain. Why, if this person wants to do it, why shouldn't they? That will be the front-facing thing.
It
and the
always
back end
starts with claims of sympathy.
And the back end will be this bill, which is, your teenager could make a wrong number, end up with GP.
With transgenderism, they lied and they said that not letting them slice off body parts is going to lead them to becoming suicidal. With homosexuality, they lied and they said the objective is just standard normalcy. We don't want anything else. And then one thing after the other was
Total
pushed
degeneracy.
until we ended up with total degeneracy. With this, it's the sort of same playbook. It's all about sympathy. Oh, let me tug at the strings of your heart. And in the end, it's going to be a way of managing the excess demand for the NHS.
It starts with sympathy and it ends with pronouns and communism.
Essentially. So please contact your MP. If you are British, if you are in Britain, please contact your MP. You can go to the government's website. You can just look up, how do I contact my MP? It immediately gives you the right response. You can find your MP on this website here, members.parliament.uk/members/commons. Just put in your postcode. You will be able to find who your MP is if you don't already know. And you will be able to find their email address and write to them. And please do write to them and tell them not to vote for murder, because it is going to end in the worst imaginable way. We know this. We've tried this. We've seen how the slippery slope actually is an iron rule. Please try to stop this.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.